So this is the other way that you can stitch that same pattern to create a seamless, minimalist, cheeky, reversible bikini bottom. So today I'm going to show you the no flounce version of the pattern. So as usual, like what we did in the previous video, we're going to print it at 100% or do not scale and double check that our test square measurements match before we join up the patterns to create little love hearts corresponding with the alphabets in them, and then cutting it to our size. For reference, my size here in the video is a size S, which is a Euro 38. When that's done, you're going to have these pattern pieces. Now for this particular pattern, you don't need all 4 pieces. You only need pattern pieces 1 and 2. You can use a rotary cutter or a pair of scissors and you'll end up with these patterns. Let's get stitching. We're going to start as usual, matching the center back seams together in both the self and the lining and doing a stitch. When that's done, you'll end up with 2 pieces like this, which we're going to take the front pieces and we're going to join it at the crotch and at the side seams. And it'll look like this. Here's where it starts to differ. We're going to match the 2 bottoms, alright, the self and the lining, together matching the side seams and the crotch line. But we're only going to stitch it on one leg opening. Now this is very important. Do not stitch both leg openings, if not you're not going to be able to turn it right sides out because we've stitched the side seam. So only stitch one leg opening and do not forget to include the elastic. When that's done, we're going to turn it right sides over so you can see one is stitched, one isn't, and using the side seam we are going to pin together the leg opening. We're basically going to create a leg opening sandwich, so in a while you'll see that the rest of the bottom will sort of like be sandwiched in between the seam as we stitch it. So you can see we have to pull it as we go to ensure that we get around the whole loop. So how you do this is that you leave the needle down in the fabric and then you slowly pull it out, making sure that you are not getting any fabric in that seam as we are stitching it. So you can see I'm just making sure everything's pushed back, and then I'll carry on stitching, and again I'll do this multiple times to ensure that it is perfect. And don't forget to add the elastic, the same amount that you did on the other leg opening. So this is how it looks. Now all we have left to do is the top opening. Now before we finish that, we just got to create a little hole so that later on we can turn it right sides out. So now we're going to take these side seams and we're going to match it right sides together. And we're basically sandwiching the bottoms together like so. Kind of like the similar thing that we did earlier for the leg opening, but on a much narrower scale. So I like to pin a little bit just to get me going. And I usually don't start stitching at the side seam. The side seam just helps me create like an anchor to start with, and I'll slowly go and pin as much as I can before it needs to be channeled out. Does that make sense? I hope I'm making sense. So you can just see what I'm doing. I'm just pinning all the way, slowly sandwiching the other seams. It'll look like this, and we're going to start stitching it. So again, we're going to stitch it as much as we can and making sure that we are not getting any other pieces other than those 2 together. Stitching it in, and then we stop. Make sure the needle is down until we reach an edge where we need to slightly pull out some more pieces so that we can continue this sandwich loop. Don't forget to add elastic as well in this seam. When that's done, remember the little hole we made earlier? All you have to do is turn it right sides out, and you can use a small little straight stitch or ladder stitch just to close that hole up, and you are done. A seamless and beautifully reversible bikini bottom that is a classic. If you want to learn how to do the one with the flounce, you can click here, and I will see you in the next one.